Hey everybody, Pastor Ben here with you on Teaching Tuesday. Hope everybody is doing well and hanging in there. Finally got some warmer weather here in the high country and it's a beautiful sunny day. Hope it is where you are as well. Welcome to Teaching Tuesday. Before we jump in, another reminder and a plug for our prayer calendar for Faith Bridge that Virginia Purefoy has created, which I will link to in the comments section right there as soon as I'm finished with this. So you can click on it. Today we are praying for all of our teachers and students, which I think is especially fitting and important for Watauga County Schools who K2 are going back 4 days a week. So yeah, prayers for all teachers, students, and know that we are giving God thanks for you and praying for you this week. All right, this week on Teaching Tuesday, I want to talk about covenants. And you might, if you're following along in our worship series, you might have picked up on this because we've been using covenant language, or I've been using covenant language in the sermons, following through Genesis, because covenants are essential in understanding Genesis and really in understanding God's relationship with all of us and making sense of what is a covenant? What does it mean? So let's talk about that today. So a covenant is essentially a partnership at its core. It's two entities, two parties saying, we're agreeing to do this thing and we're going to work together to make it happen. So interestingly enough, one way of understanding the whole Bible is talking about God longing to be in covenant relationship with God's people. So, there are lots of little covenants that we can talk about, which is what we're doing through Genesis, but there's also these major covenants throughout the Bible. So God has a covenant with Adam and Eve. God has a covenant with Noah. God has a covenant with Abraham. God has a covenant with Israel. God has a covenant with David. Did I already say that? And eventually, the new covenant through Jesus Christ, death and resurrection. Life, death, resurrection of Christ, we have a new covenant in which God longs to be in covenant relationship with us. So God longs to be in partnership with us. Best way for me of understanding a covenant is to think about a marriage as a covenant. I think it's a great way of understanding because it's bigger than just like a regular partnership, and it's not a contract in the sense that you can just tear it up and if you don't do whatever the contract says and start over. Covenants are binding typically, and both parties are working towards the desired end. So in a marriage, and I tell couples I'm counseling this before marriage all the time, it's not 50-50. Like you're not giving your 50%, spouse giving 50%. It's 100-100 all the time. There's going to be really difficult days ahead, but because you're in covenant relationship with each other, you are working as hard as you absolutely can to make sure this thing works and not just survives, but thrives. Well, the same is true with God's covenant relationship. So let's look at one today. God's covenant relationship with all of creation through Noah, right? We talked about the flood story and how it's wild that after the beauty of creation, that everything returns to chaos. But after the flood, God establishes this covenant with all of creation. And here's what God says. As for me, I'm establishing my covenant with you and your descendants after you and with every living creature that is with you, the birds, domestic animals, and every animal on the earth, as many came out of the ark. I establish my covenant with you that never again shall all flesh be cut off by the waters of a flood, and never again shall there be a flood to destroy the earth. First, perhaps major covenant in the Bible. God longs to be in covenant relationship with God's people. Even after this major flood, God says, never again will I destroy the earth by flood. This covenant is between God and all of creation, God and human beings, God and the animals, God and the plants, God and all of creation are now in covenant relationship together. We are partnering with God to continue this ongoing act of creation, to live in harmony with all of creation, just as God desires to be in covenant relationship with us. So it should be a reminder to us today, and I hope that it is, that you are a beloved child of God and you are loved. God longs to be in covenant relationship with you. Our responsibility is to work as absolutely hard as we can to maintain and continue this thriving covenant relationship with God. So, friends, be reminded that you are indeed loved and that God longs to be in relationship with you. The God of creation longs to be in covenant relationship with you. As always, it's great to be with you. And if I can pray for you in any way, please